Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to walk through Liberty tools for Eclipse. This tooling gives you fast, iterative development when creating web apps with Liberty. For this walkthrough, I'm going to highlight some of the main features of this plugin like dev mode integration, debug support, and code assistance for MicroProfile and Jakarta EE. Now once you have Liberty tools installed within Eclipse, you'll notice the Open Liberty UFO icon here at the top tray. If you click on that, this opens up the Liberty dashboard. And this is where all of your applications that are designed to run with Liberty are going to be organized. So as you can see here, I have two Maven applications and one Gradle app. For the duration of this walkthrough, I'm going to be using this Maven Getting Started Guide application. And as you can see here from the System Resource class, all this does is simply return the system properties for the system that this application is running on. So nothing fancy, just something simple to showcase this plugin. Now, if I right-click on this application here at the dashboard, I'm presented with a set of different actions that I can perform on this application. I can start it in a container, start in debug mode, run tests, stop, etc. Now, for a more Eclipse-centric way of interacting with the application, I can also, over here in my Project Explorer, right-click and go down to Run As. As you can see, I have the same set of actions that I can run. So I'm going to go ahead and click Liberty Start ... This is going to open up a Run Configurations tab. And I can create any number of configuration options here for different applications that I can then save and reuse. For example, I can configure my JRE that I want to use. In this case, I'm going to just click on the workspace default, which is Java 17. Otherwise, I could choose any other execution environment or alternate JREs that I have installed within Eclipse or on my laptop. So back over at the Start tab, you can see here that there is a Start Parameters box. Now, under the covers, Liberty Tools is leveraging the Liberty Maven and Liberty Gradle plugins to run dev mode, and we'll talk about dev mode in a minute. Now, the Start Parameters are any of the different parameters, different JVM options, and so on that I can tack on to dev mode. For this case, I'm just going to leave this blank here. So I can go ahead and run. And as you can see down here in the bottom, a new terminal tab has been opened, and we are kicking off dev mode behind the scenes. So if you're not familiar with dev mode is a goal that's built into the Liberty Maven, Liberty Gradle plugins that is basically going to compile your application, download and install Liberty, whatever you have configured within your POM or your build.gradle file. It's going to start the application server. It's going to deploy your application to it. And it's going to keep the app and the server running. And it will be listening for changes that you make either to your code or your configuration. And those will be picked up automatically and deployed to that running server and the running application. So let's see that in action here. The application is started. We go over to a browser and we just hit this endpoint for system properties. We can see that our app is running and we just have a bunch of properties for my laptop here. Now to see dev mode in action, I can go over here to my Java code and I'm just going to change this to return just a simple string. Now the minute I save this, you can see down here in the terminal, the application has automatically been updated. And without having to restart the server or stop anything, automatically I can see that the endpoint is now returning a different value. Now another nice thing with Liberty Tools is I can automatically run tests whenever I want. So I have a series of integration tests within this application. So if I click on Run Tests here, my unit tests are automatically kicked off. And now that we made this change here, one of the validations should fail. So let's go ahead and see that. Now let's change this back to make sure that these tests work again. And automatically dev mode picked up these changes. Let's go ahead and I can either click Run Tests again, or if I go back to my terminal, so this terminal is running dev mode as I mentioned before, and dev mode is interactive. So if I want to automatically run tests, I can either go back to the dashboard or back over to the options over here, the Run As options, to run my tests again, or I can simply go into the terminal and click Enter to have my tests kicked off. So let's go ahead and have these run. You can see that they're now passing now that we change things back. So as you can see here, dev mode really speeds up your development lifecycle. So rather than having to kind of manage the server and the application lifecycle behind the scenes, this is all automatically done for you with Liberty Tools. The next thing that I want to highlight is the code assistance for Jakarta EE and MicroProfile. So as I'm developing my application and writing my code, there may be a number of different REST methods that I might want to add to this app. So rather than having to copy and paste or know exactly the syntax of what I want to add, I can simply type Control Space, and I can be presented with a series of code snippets, as you can see down here, either an entire REST class, delete, get, post methods, and so on. So if I go ahead and add a get method, I can see that this method has automatically been added for me. Let's give this a path. As we save that, we can see that dev mode picks up these changes. And my application is automatically updated. In addition to individual methods, the code assistance with Liberty Tools also allows you to add entire classes. So let's see that in action as well. So over here in my application, I'm just going to add a new class. It's called MyServlet. And if I, again, type Control Space, I can scroll down here and I can find generic servlet. And the boilerplate code for this class has been added. In addition to Jakarta EE, there's code assistance for MicroProfile. So over here in my application, I have a set of liveness and readiness checks. These are MicroProfile entities, part of MicroProfile Health, that will tell you if the application is up and ready to use. Now, in addition to code snippets, as we saw with Jakarta EE, the code assistance for MicroProfile also provides support for MicroProfile properties. So as you can see here in this class, I'm injecting a config property. And just by hovering over, I can see that this value has been set to true in this specific properties file within my application. Now if I go ahead and open this properties file, and change this value, now I can see that it's automatically updated for me over here. Now in addition to code, when you're writing your application, you're going to be making any number of changes to the server configuration for Liberty. Now, Liberty Tools also streamlines this process by giving you support when you are changing their server XML or any number of other config files that you have for your server. Now, over in my application under source main Liberty, I have my server XML and a bootstrap.properties file. So let's open up this server XML. Now normally if I wanted to add a new feature to this feature list as I'm adding new code and I need new support, I would have to know exactly what the syntax is for the feature that I want. And typically I would have to go out to the internet and look up the documentation to find what the name of the feature is along with the version that I need. Now with Liberty Tools, by typing Control Space, I can see exactly what XML element that I need, feature. And again, with Control Space, I can now have a complete list of features that are available with the version of Liberty that I'm using. So if I want to add App Security 4.0, I can easily do this. And in addition to this, any existing features that I have defined, just by hovering over, I can see the description for each of these. So I know exactly what I'm using here within my application. This hover over support is available for a series of other elements within my XML as well. And along with this Control Space, I can also find other attributes and other elements that are available to me. So this saves a lot of time rather than having to go to that documentation and find exactly what I need. I can simply stay within my IDE and get all of these descriptions and options for me. In addition, in the Bootstrap properties file, I can type control space to get a list of available properties that I can set for this application. So for example, console log level. In addition to the property, I'm also presented with a list of valid values that I can add. Now the last thing that I want to show is the debug support that comes with Liberty Tools. Now whenever the application is started, as you can see here down in the terminal, a debug port is open within Liberty by default, and it's this 7777 port. Now this port might not always be available, and you have to manually attach a debugger in order to connect to this port. Now if we go ahead and stop this application, we can go into debug as and choose to start our server in debug mode. And what Liberty Tools is going to do is it's going to find an available port, and it's going to automatically attach our debugger for us. So as you can see here down at the bottom, we're attaching our debugger to the JVM. Now to see this work, I can go back to my system resource class, and I can add a breakpoint down here. So now when I hit this endpoint, we're going to pop into debug mode here in Eclipse. If we go over to the browser and refresh this page, we can see that we triggered our breakpoint. Thanks for watching. Feel free to check out the early release of Liberty Tools from the Eclipse Marketplace.